Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences per year for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights to support your business journeys. I don't know how this man hasn't been on the podcast before, but in today's episode, I'll be chatting to Adam Zeitsiff, and he's a man that in my eyes needs no introduction, but officially his title right now is CIO at L.A. Fitness. Adam, how are you?
Good to be here, my friend. Good to see you. I'm good, thanks.
I was giving a compliment, and look, I want to get into your background a bit more, but I think Adam, he cuts the. He's been a CEO and he's been leading technology change in many organisations from the front and from many different areas. So I'm really interested to focus on that side of things as much as possible and how much it's changing and how much you've seen evolve. So maybe a little bit of background for you would be good for the listeners, Adam.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's good to be here, Paul. And I don't know how. I think I've successfully avoided this for a long time. Here I am.
Well done.
Here I am. Man. But yeah, so it's funny. I recently hit the half-century mark, and it got me thinking about all the things that happen when you hit that. And no, I've been in the industry now. It's coming on 2 decades. But I was born and raised in the northeastern part of the U.S. in Massachusetts, so I'm a diehard sports fan of those New England teams. And grew up with a grandfather who was an entrepreneur, and I always idolized him and spent a lot of time in his business and watched how he was able to gain the respect of his team, and his team respected him, but he respected them, and they put food on each other's tables and had a great relationship. He was a great leader, and it always inspired me to want to be a leader. And so I think he was a real inspiration for me. But got started, working back in the early days in computers and tech, and back when you actually remember when we had to build computers and we just couldn't go to the store and pick them up. And
come a long way.
We've come a long way, mate. When we used to measure RAM in megabytes or K, but it was a lot of fun, and so started there and ended up working my way through college in a tech company, and it just kind of gave me the bug. And the problem is I'm highly technical. I say I've got this invisible pocket protector, but I can't write code. And I actually started as a computer science major, and I had to change to business and had the technology minor because I couldn't write in COBOL and Pascal back then. It just didn't work for my brain. But here I am in the industry and worked my way through as an entrepreneur. I've been involved in a number of businesses that I've started in the technology side of things, and then in fitness as well. And here I am in the industry after 2 decades and love it, and really enjoy the fact that we get to go to work every day, even if we're behind the scenes sometimes, where we get to help people change their lives. And I love every minute of that.
Like that. And then for you, so where did where did it come from? Was it a sporting background that, in terms of how fitness found you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had an up and down relationship with fitness. Like most people who love fitness, I was an athlete in high school, played 3 different sports. I was only good at one, really. I was a good tennis player. I was okay at others, but I was busy year round. We all were. That's how we stayed out of trouble when we were younger in the 80s. But, it did translate to hitting the gym. I didn't play sports in college. I was done after high school, but I was in the gym 3-4 days a week at least in college, made some great friends, got into decent shape, and then graduated college, started a business, got married, got pretty lazy, and put on a bunch of weight. I was definitely unhealthy to the point where I would actually be out of breath going up the stairs, and in my 20s.
Okay.
It was tough. And so I finally found fitness again, got back in shape, haven't stopped since, and I become a junkie. I become a fitness junkie. I love to eat, I love to have some drinks, so I love to be in the gym as a result. And I'm a MyZone addict. I live and breathe by hitting my MEPs and staying preparing. It's just one of those things where after all these years, it does become a community. Like I see the same people every day at 5 a.m. just like you do. So it's become part of that. But we had an unhealthy relationship with the gym for a little while, but we've been back for a while.
But I think for all of us, it's actually good to have that duty. To be always the eat, sleep, train, repeat guy and have washboard abs. Sometimes you can't actually go down to the levels of what people are trying to struggle with. So it's it's a good thing to add to the resume. And I guess you've done 20 years in the industry. So for you, what have been the key drivers of where we've gone to where we've come? And maybe even though that's probably going to ask you this question at the end, but what do you think? Are any of those drivers going to continue?
Yeah, by the way, I have washboard abs. They're just well insulated.
Sorry. Yeah. I wasn't
Well,
taking that away from you.
well insulated, well insulated. It's interesting. I think, and again, I've only been in the industry half the time as some of the folks that you and I know, right? And we've seen out there
Yeah.
that we still collaborate with. But I've seen, I think, 3 or 4 things stand out to me. I think the first one is the kind of the adaptation to the customer preferences, like meeting the customer where they want to be. That was not quite there. Early days went from the big box when I started to very personalized models, personalized training programs, digital fitness, holistic health. Again, meeting the member where they want to be. Even things like we're moving to recovery. Like every gym is putting it in now. So to me, that's one area of kind of the evolution that you talk about. The other one is the obvious technology. It has transformed the experience, whether it's a mobile app, virtual fitness, aligning physical and virtual. AI, we'll talk more about it later, but like things like Fitbit and Aura and Samsung and MyZone and all this data that's coming together. And even like, and I'm sure you've seen this, but like business models for brick and mortar that are based on tech, like Orange Theory is a big tech focus. We have this new group here in the US called Lumen Fitness. It's all AI focused. And it's got a coach that's AI, and it helps with gamification and the immersive experience and tracking range of motion. And you can do a whole 45-minute workout with that coach tailored to you. So it's super, super interesting for me to see some of the evolution of this.
And do you think those trends continue? So we're essentially going to be more embracing of technology, and essentially with the viewpoint of meeting the needs of the customers, right? It's not, that's just going to be the evolution of what we're seeing to all of the different dynamics in the industry.
Yeah, no, that train has left the station. Like, we're not getting that back. People want personalized. A lot of these, the Gen Zs and these younger people coming in, they expect personalized. They expect us to meet them where they are no matter what, because that's how they were raised and that's how things were done. And so we have to stick that route. And some of these things that we're seeing, some of these trends will come and go. We see that all the time, but some are certainly going to stick. Technology, it will stick as part of it, and personalization definitely stick.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And then, so winding back to when you became CEO at Gold's Gym, I guess you did a lot of great things. I think from a technological point of view, at very, very low capex, you could say. Like, have you got any great examples? I want you to highlight one, but I don't want to steal it from you.
Yeah, no, I think, so I was there as the CIO and then left and came back as the CEO. But I mean, one example from a technology perspective, when I was the CIO and I worked for the CEO at the time, great guy, really smart, and he said, hey, we've got to get some tech in this thing. And so I came back to him with an idea, and it was all about digital fitness early days, but it was about focused workouts on all our, at the time, cardio equipment, so we could leverage digital to make the in-gym experience better. This was pre-COVID. This was 16, 17. And so we wanted to leverage digital to make the in-gym experience better. So we launched this product called Gold's Amp. And it was with music, and it was workouts that were curated by our trainers, written by our trainers, voiced over by our trainers, which was cool. You could actually bump into one of the trainers in the gym who voiced over a workout you were doing on the treadmill, and it's designed to walk you through workouts on cardio. So you're not sitting there looking at your iPad watching a rerun of Friends. You're actually doing work, right? And so that was we love that. It was really good for the business. It helped drive not only revenue, but it drove dues because we bundled it into different tiers, and it was a great reason to move up the tier, right, to help that triplicate of choice right in the middle because it made more sense. And so it was a lot of fun, and credit to the team because it was a nice combination of tech, fitness, marketing, you name it. It was everything into one.
I always remember seeing you in the old offices in that little cupboard that you had for the recordings. I was amazed with it.
Yes. Yeah, we actually stole a storage closet, took everything out, found a new place for it, and we soundproofed it and put the equipment, and that was the voice recording studio. Yeah, that's funny.
And I guess, to CIOs that are out there listening to this, which there's a few, what would be your recommendation to get initiatives like that across the line in terms of how to sell it to the business to show the wider impact? Because you've been very successful doing that.
That's a great question because it's hard because as technologists, we are like, oh, we see this, we know exactly what is that. And I think for me, it's a couple things. It's about making sure that something like that, the technology we're talking about, actually does align with the strategic business goal, right? So we get excited about a certain piece of tech, and I've seen so many people do this where they get excited about the tech, but you don't have a use case for it, a real strategic business use. And so that's the first thing. If you don't have a real use case that the business operators can go, oh, I get that. That drives revenue. It helps with retention, engagement, brand awareness. I get it. You're not going to get there. So I think definitely making sure the tech that you're promoting aligns with that. And then I think the other piece is just clearly communicate the benefits. Like, hey, here's what this is going to do for us. You've got to get those stakeholders engaged and on board. So you're not just a champion. There's a whole bunch of you that are championing this, and it makes sense.
Yeah, and then it's been interesting speaking to many club groups, I won't talk about it, that have actually built such a large ecosystem, and some of them, if they're honest with each other, maybe wouldn't say it on a podcast, would actually regret building so heavy features because they've become such a huge tech team. We're talking over 10 million, 50 million of ongoing costs just to run those features. I always feel, when I talk to you can simplify things quite well to get the biggest result. But I feel like, there's some club groups that have gone too far in terms of running too much of a tech organization, actually thinking about bringing it back, and there's some that haven't adopted. Like I guess using those two use cases, if you were to jump into those two businesses, what would you do?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for me, I've always been a fan of if it's out there and it exists and it does a really good job of doing what it does, why duplicate it, right? For example, why build your own ERP? You've got a million options out there, from a Workday, Great Plan, you name it, Dynamics, just run with one, right? And they're all designed to protect your data, give you the best feature functionality. There's no need to do that. Same with email, text marketing, CRM, right? You've got 3 or 4 different platforms, some custom to our industry, some like Salesforce. It's there. Don't bother. But when to me, when a business has something that the technology can add to their intellectual property, their intellectual value, and the unique offering that they're delivering, and they can either customize it themselves or, preferred, customize it with a partner who's going to be the back end of everything and just provide the customizations for us. To me, that makes a lot of sense. And I know we're on the call with you, but Wexer is a good example. There's a lot of other things that are good examples, not even in your domain, that, hey, I've got a great product. We can customize the last 20% for you, and it becomes unique to your business.
Yeah, no, well, of course, I won't go into, let's not do the make, buy, or build debate. But I guess, again, for you, what I've seen dealing with your team members that you've managed throughout different groups, it's always you've been able to lead an organization that kind of embraces innovation, and that's changed, I feel, directly a lot of times because of you. So what is that? How have you done that? Is that because you're good at kind of probably getting the business case across, or is it the fact of, let me know? Yeah,
I think you've got to foster that culture, like you said, of innovation, continuous improvement, right? That's really important. So I think for me, I'm number one, having been an entrepreneur and not being afraid of change, which is, and there's plenty of other entrepreneurs like me are the same way, but it becomes easy to at least be encouraged. So the first thing is encourage the change, right? And give them the ability to share their ideas. Don't make them think their ideas are not going to be listened to. Have them. I let people share their ideas. I talk about taking risks. I talk about failing quickly, and I learned that years ago about failing quickly from the chairman of Constellation Software, which owns Jonas Software. And he said, "Look, just fail quickly. I don't mind if you fail. Just do it quickly, so we don't blow too much money, or more importantly, your time." And to me, that always resonated. And so, definitely number one, encourage that, but also learn when it's either working or not. And then the hard part these days, because things move so quickly, but you've got to encourage people to learn, upskill themselves. And that is hard because you're always working at the speed of business in your business. And so giving people the chance to spend a little time upskilling, learning new things, especially with the rate AI is changing and things like that. And then being agile. If you want your team to be agile, you've got to be agile as a leader. So be agile, be okay with quick changes, let decision-making kind of be decentralized, let them do their thing, that they're the experts, trust, verify, and all that fun stuff. But that's critical to, letting people innovate and encouraging them.
And where is your source? Where do you get your sources for? Who do you follow in terms of innovations and the rest of it in our industry or outside?
Yeah, it's interesting. I find I've been, over the years, like you follow so many people, whether it's on
Mm.
socials, personal or LinkedIn, but certainly in our industry, I love seeing what some of the bigger brands are doing, what works, what doesn't. And then I love following a lot of the startups. I stay in touch with a lot of the startups in the space. Some of these new innovators is one I just spoke to today, a group called Work. They're aggregating all the data from the wearables into one place, bringing it in,
Nice.
normalizing it, you
Yeah.
apply to it, and then delivering it to their customers so they can use it for members or for healthcare
Mhm.
or insurance. Like
Yeah.
that's a cool. And so, I mean, I'm not going to be in that business, but man, you stay
Mm.
tight, learn a lot, and it sparks
Yeah.
other innovation. So I think just connecting with them, we've got some great people in our industry, like Brian O'Rourke and a bunch of others who've been innovators for years.
Yes.
And I try to follow folks outside the U.S. too, right?
Cool.
Definitely learn a lot from what's going on in the Asia Pac markets and in the European markets as well.
That makes sense. And then for me, challenges. Like what are the challenges that predominantly CIOs are facing right now in the landscape of the market?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think, to be quite frank, the speed of which everything is happening all of a sudden.
Mm.
I mean, and unless you were really embedded in tech pre, April of 23, nobody even knew who OpenAI was really. Your
Yes.
average person. Now my
Yeah.
mom has heard about this
Yeah.
ChatGPT thing. My mom's
Yeah.
70. So things are moving very quickly. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big challenge. And how do you keep up with that?
Yeah.
And to what I mentioned earlier, how do you make sure you're not deploying tech for the sake of deploying it, right?
Yes.
And totally getting the use case. And I think that sometimes is hard and challenging because everyone wants their use case to be right. You've got revenue
Mm.
generating use case in fitness, you've got
Yeah.
retention based use cases, you've got employee efficiency. So
Yeah.
I think those are challenging of prioritizing what's going to work, what's not going to work, how do you test quickly and learn.
Yeah.
And then the third challenge, honestly, Paul, is like the talent. It is hard
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
find the talent on some of these really unique things. Like try going to find a really senior data scientist who understands how to
Mm.
deploy AI. They're
Mm.
not easy to find, and sometimes they make more than the CEO, right? And so, or the CIO. So, which is fine because they know things we don't. But that is a
Yes.
challenge, just bringing the
Well,
people in.
and again, I think talking to a lot of club operators, and you have this conversation. The talent factor is, anyone in technology. Why? And I'm not putting down our industry when I say this, but why would they work in a fitness company, right? When they've got so many different options for them right now. And of course,
Yeah.
there's more and more people coming that have those skill sets. And of course, AI is actually maybe, well, I wouldn't say making them relevant, but definitely need someone to be able to understand it. But that's the challenge, to get those real key people that can actually help drive those business forward with great data decision making, right?
Well, that's the hard part. And to
Yeah.
you hit the nail on that. Data is the key to
Yeah.
AI, and continually carrying and feeding those learning libraries. And that
Yeah.
that is those people are. If you have a kid who's about to graduate, have them be a data scientist because they're going to do really well.
Yeah, no, agreed. Well, we've had a conversation of Jamie, my CTO, who's been on the podcast as well, and I said, look, you really don't want to be just an average like computer coder or engineer right now, because these technologies are coming so fast and they're
Yeah.
doing so many amazing things that they can actually write code exactly how you want the business. Then you actually want to write it exactly how you want it to be launched. So it's very impressive. But like talking about AI, I guess. It's such a topic that constantly gets discussed. But I guess specifically to your roles that you've had, like what's going to be the biggest transformation for you?
Yeah. Oh man, we have another half hour.
Yeah,
There's a whole bunch of things. I think the first one I'm excited about, and I'm not a data geek at all, but I'm a former CEO, CIO, both. And for me, the data analytics, I think that AI can help us with. So bringing all a company's data that they have from their point of sale systems, from their marketing, from their research, from data, and they can buy demographic data, and bringing that into a data warehouse, and then letting AI learn, right? Whether it's learn about your transactions, about their history, what are they doing outside the gym, and then being able to have a CEO of any company, any industry, it doesn't matter. Just use their natural language and type a few things and ask the AI a question, and the AI goes to find it. There's no more waiting for report writers, understanding this, waiting for Power BI to be developed. They just spit it back out in a textual answer, in an Excel answer, in a dashboard. And so to me, that's exciting for operating any business in any industry. And then for our industry, I think, predictive personalization is going to be huge. It's getting there. Personalized AI coaching. Noom has been doing it for a while, but bringing it into the gym business is going to be important. Predicting health outcomes. I think the combination of AI and IoT, when you're trying to interconnect like health ecosystems together, sharing health data, fitness devices with fitness businesses, with healthcare providers, it could actually give people that holistic view of their whole health world, and then also give it to their provider and their fitness company, which I think is
Who do you think wins? Like, because it's interesting. We had presentations from Gemini, who takes all your Google search history and be able to relate it, which I think is pretty very powerful. Same as Bedrock with Amazon, and then of course you got OpenAI, which fundamentally is the best AI source right now, but doesn't have all the history of the search histories and all the consumer behavior. So, like, for you looking at, there's probably other options, but those options, where would what are you following the most?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've been playing with Gemini a little bit from that perspective. I think the easy one to get started with, if you're a Microsoft partner with OpenAI and Azure, you can just get started. But it's okay. It lets you get your feet wet, right? And it does give you the ability to protect your data, at least in that environment. You know that your data as a Microsoft partner, and I'm not trying to promote Microsoft, but it's a great example. It's in their ecosystem, it's in your Azure, and it's not going to leave. I think that's what companies think about. So I think the problem with all that is it is changing so darn fast. Like, companies are really going to have to build models and LLMs that can interchange between AI engines so that they can be flexible with what they're doing.
And do you think it's a threat? Like it's just, and I'll give you some context. So we have just integrated with a few corporate wellness platforms that integrates to Microsoft. So essentially they have business rules where, for example, if they have 3 meetings, they would actually have to show some content. And so that content will be like healthy hips, or depending on their personalization, they might have a bad back injury or something like that, which is awesome. So it's like we're seeing organizations actually kind of, I wouldn't say force people to do it, but do things that's the benefit of those individuals based off their outputs. Like, do you see that as becoming a threat? Like, these tech companies actually could be offering better wellness solutions than the health clubs, like, or is are we all going to be coming together and the pie grows larger?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, I've always been afraid a little bit of the healthcare companies because they're well funded and they can move faster and they can set standards. And if they do that before we can, we're obviously in trouble as an industry. But I think knowledge is power. And I think what the AI can do is help give the average consumer the knowledge and teach them how to do things, certainly, but it can't build a weight room for them. It can't build treadmills. It can't build great equipment. It can't give them the recovery equipment, and it can't be there in person, giving them that empathetic, continuous improvement as they're going through their training. So I think AI, and it certainly can be a threat, but if we use it the right way, it can actually make our people in these clubs more valuable, right? Because they can also have the same information at their fingertips and be a more valuable care partner to our members.
Well, I just think anything that gets people to move more, and you have more accessible and probably kind of unintentional exercise, you grow the pie. Like we've talked, you've sit on many IRSA round tables and the likes, and it's kind of like, well, actually, the more that we can do this, I think the pie grows larger, because you can never replicate the physical experience. Two digital technologists can actually say that. So it's how it all works, and I guess that's the landscape that I'm finding challenging at the moment. Is especially from a supply side, is where do we start, where do we stop, and all the other businesses that we're supporting. That you could argue that it's becoming a threat, but in my eyes, the more people can access the right content, the more people, move through confidence, and then they want the physical experiences, right? Like we've done in our careers.
I think 100%. I think what you've seen, and it's an overused analogy, but COVID, at least it gave people a realization who were not in the gym how important it is to be physically active. Right? Totally. And if there's one positive thing, we all talk about that. And then you got the GLP medications, right? It's an argument we can spend 45 minutes on. I won't go there, but at least
that's another podcast.
Another podcast, but at least they're giving people a reason to go, okay, this is kickstarting my habit, but if I don't get in the gym, it's all for naught. It's all going to come in. So you're right. It's going to open up more share of pie, and that's a whole different conversation. But I do think we should embrace it, but we should be careful. And when in doubt, people in our industry should go out and get some help, because they need to get on that bus.
Nice. No, that's good advice. And then getting, I guess, thinking about, inspiring people that will look at your career and say, I want to follow that, like what would be your advice for them, for their careers?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. Three or four quick things. Number one, I find that in some of these younger generations, like, you have to remind them to embrace the fact that they don't know everything out of the gate. So I would stress that importance of continual learning. Like, always keep a learning mindset. Number one, you're not going to know it all. It's crazy now that I'm hitting 50. I realize I didn't know anything 25 years ago. It's amazing to learn as you go. So definitely, number one, continually have that learning mindset. And then number two, don't forget that kind of symbiosis between the strategic and the technology. Like, every business has the operations and the strategic side and the technology. It's just a foregone conclusion. So if you're going to be a successful leader, you've got to have a grasp of both. Don't need to be an expert, but you've got to have a grasp for both. And then two more quick things. Always like to look at other industries. I always look to see what hospitality is doing. I think it helps our industry a lot. So definitely leverage other industries. Don't get so hyper-focused on what fitness is doing that you forget you can learn from other industries. And then lastly for me, which I didn't really learn this until the last decade, get other people's opinions. Like, have a diversity of thought when you're doing things, because having diverse voices in your decision-making, not just your same people, it gives you better outcomes. Yeah,
that's perfect advice, I think. So I think all listeners would appreciate that. And then how do people connect with you, Adam?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Certainly connect with me on LinkedIn, or my email is adam@zeitsiff.net. Either way, shoot me a note. I'd love to connect.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're going to be at IRSA, so reach out to Adam before IRSA.
Absolutely. Get out there, and look forward to seeing you there as well, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, thank you for joining the podcast. Your insights have been great, and I'm sure the listeners will appreciate the time that you've spent. Thank you so much.
All right, Paul. Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah. Bye.